Hello, welcome to Truth Speak. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you who have said such kind words over the past couple of weeks due to my recent attention for helping the older gentleman up the curb. We all do it there, but thank you guys so much for all of your kind words and everything that you have said. It's been truly inspiring to me, and it's given me a lot of energy for this episode. So, well, let's roll right into it. Today, I am going to talk about criticism, and I'm going to talk about emotions, and I'm going to talk about basically building a bridge and being prepared for your emotions, being prepared for tense situations. So let's give an example here. Have you ever witnessed a fight? What typically caused that fight? Maybe some individual said one thing, another individual said another thing. Both individuals began rearing up, they began getting ready for it. Basically, in essence, what most likely happened is both or one of the individuals involved perceived that there was disrespect going on and they wanted to correct that. Now let me ask you this. Does the fight correct the respect issue? There's a couple perspectives on that. If you win the fight, maybe. If you lose the fight, it only enhances it. But did it get at the root cause for the disrespect in the first place? Are you two fighting, or do you two dislike each other due to a misunderstanding? You won't know unless you are able to effectively communicate. But in that moment, when a fight is about to break out, the hardest thing to do is to communicate. There's a lot going on. Your friends are probably involved, or spectators are involved, and they're cheering and they're saying one thing or the other. Your emotions are rising, either anger, pain, disgust, whatever it may be, and then adrenaline is kicking in, fight or flight response is going hard. You are just reared for whatever. You're not focused on the situation at hand. So I call that scenario, I call all of that there, and through other people's calling it as well, it's emotional quicksand. To me, that's where you are in that moment. You are in emotional quicksand, and you're kind of panicking. And granted, you may win the fight or lose the fight. That's not really the point here. My point is, you could have avoided the fight entirely. Now, before you think that that is a weak option or that is a weak thing to do, I need you to understand what I'm saying. You can be ready and be strong enough to defend yourself, but it's a different thing to defend yourself versus aggravate the situation. And that's what I'm trying to bring to the forefront here today. Because in any situation such like that, one individual, it just usually takes one to be the bigger individual and take a step back and say, okay, let's talk about this for real. No matter what the spectators are saying, no matter what they're hollering or calling each of you, it doesn't need to matter. One of you needs to be the bigger individual and to step up and do that. Now that's a hard thing to do if you are not already on constant guard of your emotions and on constant guard of the things that potentially trip you up. So let's build another parallel here. If you are an explorer of any sort and you accidentally fall into quicksand for the first time, you're going to panic, probably going to get stuck. God willing, you make it out. Alright, so you made it out, and now as you continue your exploration, say you come up on another patch that looks kind of similar to the one that you just passed. Are you going to jump right into that next patch of possible quicksand? Or are you going to build or use materials nearby to lay something over that area so that you can effectively pass over rather safely? That is in essence what I'm bringing to the forefront here. So if you know situations that kind of make you mad, I don't care what kind of situation it is. Say you're in a marriage that isn't in the best of places right now, and you know the things that you and your wife constantly fight about, or you and your significant other constantly fight about, things like that. You know what those situations are. Why not take a pen and paper and write it down for yourself? And really try to analyze it. Is it usually because I say this thing, or she says this thing, or does she usually throw something, or do I throw something? What exactly happens to precipitate those situations? And if you know what's coming, now you can prepare for it. So you're, in essence, you're building a bridge over your emotional quicksand. Because that's what it is. Once you get involved in the situation, anything can happen. Like the fight situation. I don't know if you heard recently, but I know there's many stories like this, but you can find them anywhere. There was, I think, a soccer player who was mad at the call from a referee and punched the referee, and that one punch ended up killing that referee. That individual, I doubt in his mind when he woke up that morning, said to himself, I am going to kill the referee today. He had no idea what that was going to happen, but what was going to happen that day. But because he wasn't on guard of his emotions and on guard of his reactions to things, that's what happened. He was quick to violence, and that's what caused him such a drastic consequence. And that's kind of what I'm talking about today. In essence, being able to predict the situations that trip you up, that make it difficult for you to communicate effectively or to handle yourself effectively. Looking at those situations and now build a bridge over them. One of the ways that you can practice this, really, is to take criticism. Go to your good friends and ask them for candid criticism. Absolutely. Then find somebody that you know strongly dislikes you and ask them for their criticism. That's a hard thing to do. There's pride, there's ego, there's a whole bunch of things going on. Now you're coming face to face with those rising emotions that you've got. The reason why I ask you to do that is because your friends, your family, whoever else that cares about you, if you ask them for candid perspective on who you are as an individual and what you usually do in most situations, they will probably give it to you, but more likely with a filter. I'm not saying that their advice or their input is not going to be any good. It's going to be very good, but it's probably going to come with a filter. So I'm taking that extra step, taking the initiative to go a step further and ask an individual that you know strongly dislikes you, or that you dislike, for their perspective on you as an individual. Now you're coming face to face with things that you would rather not hear. And that's a moment for you to test your emotions, and that's a moment for you to understand who you are in different situations. Be willing to accept criticism. Struggle against that emotional quicksand that comes up in your life. I've been wondering how to say this one, so I may come back to this episode and say it a bit differently, but this is what I really want to leave you with today. Avoid emotional quicksand. And the way to do it is to predict the situations that you know aggravate you and avoid them. It is much, much harder to do that than it is to just go with the flow, and when the situation happens, whatever happens, happens. Because, in essence, you're looking at it from two perspectives. Are you going to take control of your life and in your emotions and your reactions to things, or are you just going to let other people control you? Because that's what happens. These people most likely know what pissed you off, know what sets you off, knows what trips you up, so they can do it to you all day long and manipulate you in any way that they like. This is your defense mechanism against outside influence. And I'll leave you with that today. Struggle, struggle, struggle. Never, try to never give in.